Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at silver. It is time for another update, and yes, you have seen the title, yes, you have seen the thumbnail, and of course today we will be taking a look at the structure we expect to form in this development, in this correction, the region we are looking to form a bottom within, and the levels to watch to indicate that this would no longer be a likely outcome, a likely development. Now, before we get into all those details, I want to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new to provide a context of where we are within this entire movement to the upside. So, in this structure, we are looking at a diagonal pattern. This would be a wave 1 up, we would have here a wave 2 down, and now we would be tracking the wave 3 to the upside, in which we are looking to build an ABC structure. Even once we complete this wave 3, we would still be looking afterwards for continuation to high prices. We will have levels of support, but it would expect a much more significant correction, something similar in proportions with what we have in this as a larger wave 2 to the downside. Yeah, could take a few years before we would bottom afterwards. But nonetheless, within this wave 3, we would be looking still to form one more leg up, yeah, thus completing the wave C, thus completing the larger wave 3. And of course, if you want to be a part of this journey, as we track these developments, as we track these extensions, I would encourage you to subscribe, as we will be active on this. And of course, even once we form this additional movement to the upside, we will be even tracking the levels of support that would allow even further extensions, and only really be looking for a more substantial top to be in place when we get more established evidence. Now, in this development, we are looking to build this additional leg to the upside against $57.6. This would be our last level of support for the current structure, where we do not want to see a sustained break below this level. If it's just a week below this last level of support, it is perfectly acceptable, it is perfectly fine. For example, on the gold chart, we have already pushed into its last level of support for the respective count we were tracking, but it hasn't been a sustained break, at least not yet. Now, in this correction, we have been tracking this idea of an ABC structure. Within a wave C, we are as always looking to build a 5-wave pattern. As long as this remains incomplete and we do not manage to get a sustained break above the 61.8% retracement at $77.9, it remains a strong preference that we extend within one more low in this structure. In this additional low, we could be looking even for some targets, but that would be provided that we have the wave 4 top in place. But I would typically be looking to bottom in the region between $60 down to $57.6. Now, give or take a few dollars, this is the general area we expect to form a bottom within. Yeah, we have even some structural support at this last Fibonacci retracement, and it's not going to be a hard level, but as the structure develops and we see more clearly how this movement to the downside as a wave 5 unfolds, we will have a better idea of how low we could be looking to get. We have a more clear understanding of how many extensions we would be looking for. For example, within this as a wave C, we would be looking for a wave 5. Within this as a wave 5, we would be looking for an ABC structure. And as we have the wave A complete, the wave B complete, once again, we would be looking within the wave C to identify a 5-wave move to the downside. And as we see these developments, we will get a better idea of the region we will expect to bottom within. And this is actually another reason to keep track of these developments with us, because we will have very active tracking of this movement. Now, can something else happen? Of course it can. We cannot really predict the market. We aren't attempting to do that here, but we are looking for the likely structures, right? We are looking for the likely developments, and we have some quite particular expectations within this wave 4 as well. And we have some additional signals that we can provide within this area, and some additional ideal patterns to track in the smaller time frame as well. And before we get into that though, I wanted to also highlight another indicator. And one more thing I forgot to mention on the daily time frame is to notice the reaction to the 50% retracement, right? We have here one of the main levels of support within a wave 4. We can notice that we only managed to break it within a week below it, and a pretty strong recovery in the same day, right? The same story followed on the gold chart. Now, on the RSI itself, on this indicator, I would find it possible to see a divergence even on the daily, but it might require a reset within the wave 4, or it might not see as clear of a divergence. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, it's a different story. I would expect that even if the fifth wave is already in development, and we would be looking at an A, B, C pattern to already be forming, we would have pretty good odds of forming said divergence. Now, does this confirm that we would bottom within this area? It's not meant to offer confirmation, but it's meant to aid us in our expectations in tracking our likely and ideal structures. And for me, it remains the case that ideally we would bottom within this region, so likely forming a lower low within this wave 5. And of course, the geopolitical conditions will heavily affect this. Maybe we do not even form this last leg to the downside, but as it stands right now, this is the ideal pattern. This is the most probable outcome in my opinion. Now, what would be our signal that we wouldn't be looking to extend within this wave 5? Well, for me, it would be a clear and sustained break above $77.9. Only then would we have a clearer indication on the chart that this structure would have a bottom in place already within a wave 4, and that the fifth wave may have already started to new all-time highs. Of course, we will be looking for further evidence, we will be looking for the next levels of resistance, and for potentially an initial 5-wave move to the upside, but until such is the case, this is our main signal. I expect this to also be our first indication, not only the main one, that the fifth wave would not be happening. So let's go into the smaller time frame. In the previous video, we have been outlining that this as a wave 4 had already built the necessary structure in terms of proportions. Ideally, we would have liked to actually extend higher within this as a wave C. We were actually looking to build even an impulse potentially, but that would have required us to track here potentially even a 3-1-2 setup, something like this in this area, and then have this as a wave 3, a wave 4, and then a few additional legs to the upside, likely taking us towards the higher level of this resistance area. So what has happened? Has the structure completely failed? Well, I would argue not. I would simply consider this to have been a triangle within a wave B and a much shorter wave C. We even had an indication that this structure would have become much less likely, significantly. We had levels of support internally for direct continuation to higher prices, and we provided this last level of support at $72.1 for the idea of an impulse to be forming in this region. It has failed. It was our signal that this structure would have likely formed a top already within a different pattern than what we had on the chart, right? We do not necessarily care what type of pattern has really formed in this area. What we really care is that we got our signal that the impulse is not going to work. We had provided even a slightly lower boundary for support for the idea of an ending diagonal within the wave C. That didn't work as well. And we of course extended to much lower prices. Now, does this mean that this wave 4 has stopped? Possibly. We have a 3-wave pattern. We really do not require anything else of such a correction. But at the same time, I might actually find it ideal that within this wave 4, we actually get a reset. Nothing is preventing this pattern from developing an A, B, C structure within a wave A. We get afterwards a wave B here, and we would get a wave C to form a larger correction that would be an even better match for this as a wave 2. Does it need to? No, it doesn't, of course. But as long as we do not break here the 78.6% retracement, we can still actually track such a development. And this sits at $63.9, let's say $64, If we get a sustained break below this level, it would be an additional indication that this wave 5 in white would already be forming. Otherwise, I will continue to focus here on the idea of an extension in this ABC pattern in orange, and in the white scenario I will be considering a top, as we have the three-wave pattern. We have even pushed to previous structural resistance, this previous top, and we have pushed into the 50% retracement. So let's get a bit into this actual structure in this wave B. I would be able to even consider this to be an initial 5-wave move to the downside. It is something to be wary about. There are a couple of ways we could be counting it, but this means we would be watching for a resistance area up to the 78.6% retracement at $73, where with a break above that, it would be a rather stronger signal that this wave C in orange will see the extension, but without it, there remains strong pressure at least for a reset within this wave B in orange. Now, in terms of the pattern to higher prices, I will say it bluntly. We only have a 3-wave pattern. There is no strong indication that this structure would succeed in forming this entire wave C. Sure, I could track this even as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I could be looking for the development, and even other options are possible, but it's not going to be any strong indication it would be the case. I could just as well track an ABC pattern here, which would be plenty to consider this wave B in white to have topped and to already be looking for another extension, at least within a wave C in this structure, if not something even stronger, because while we can look for only a 3-wave within the larger wave A of the wave 5, we could be looking even for a 5-wave structure. Now, in this wave B, we can notice we have gotten rejected already twice at the 61.8% retracement. There has been more of an attempt here the second time, and there is really no strong indication that we would be extending directly higher, but in terms of support, what I would be tracking for direct continuation in this structure would be down to the 78.6% retracement at $68.6, where so far we can notice that in this initial push to the downside, we have formed a reaction to the first level of support, the 38.2% retracement, and we have a decent reaction already. Now, this doesn't mean we have bottomed. It could, technically, but we might form a larger A, B, C pattern in this area, something along these lines. Now, for a count to be able to track more clearly the type of structure we would have in this area, it would be something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is what I would be tracking in orange, and we can even provide an ideal target for such a development. That would be the 100% extension of the wave A, although do not necessarily expect it to be a given. It is even above our last level of resistance, and very easily we could be looking to actually top within the 78.6% extension instead, around $78. In terms of an ideal target for the wave 3, this orange wave 3, we can also provide that. That would be the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. $75 would be the level I would be watching for this wave 3 to develop in. Now, in terms of the structure itself, I am primarily focused on an ending diagonal within this wave C. Can it build something else? Well, yes, but at this point, the only option we could really consider within an impulse would be here a series of 1-2 setups, which make for a quite unrealistic expectation. Within such a scenario, I would even strongly expect to exceed the resistance bounds of this overall wave 4, and I do not find it likely, to be put plainly. Now, other developments, sure, but nothing I would focus on personally. I believe this is the pattern to focus on. I believe this is the pattern to track for a possible extension, although once again, this extension in orange is absolutely not necessary. I believe silver perfectly capable of having already started its wave 5, and in the end, we will always be looking for evidence. We have the levels of support to watch, we have the levels of resistance to watch, and I am waiting for the signals. But overall, from the larger time frame perspective, the ideal pattern remains that we extend in one more low in this support zone. We form here a wave 5 and complete a larger A, B, C pattern by courtesy of having a full count. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. And if you enjoy our content and want to support us directly, check out our channel membership. And as a thank you for any of these actions, I would like to invite you to sign up to our channel newsletter, where you get access to our monthly top picks. And by the way, we have just sent out the latest update. And if you join this week, you will still get access to it. But beyond that, we will likely stop sending it out. And it's completely free anyway, so you can just join and unsubscribe afterwards if you want. I don't know. The link is in the description. Other than that, let me know what else you would like to see, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.